Uh, Lifeboat Live. We just walked out of the courtroom, and Danny was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison, which means that, according to the judge, he will have to bring about 26 years and some change before he will be eligible for parole. So his first parole eligibility is going to come up at 73. There have been people that have left comments and kind of busted chops a little bit about us being entirely too happy about this. We were in the second row of the courtroom, and we were sitting directly behind the Jane Does, and watched the Jane Does get up and do their victim impact statements. And if you watched those, you would not be feeling any pity for this man and for what is about to happen to him. I feel for his kid, I feel for the family, but the impact statements were horrific. They were absolutely horrific, and the Jane Does are freaking heroes, and they're heroes in a way that, man, I did a show, I did a video about them being heroes. It was probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I didn't have a clue. I really didn't. I mean, I thought it was very impressive what they did to sit in there and see them today and have to get up in front of an audience of people, half of whom are not particularly friendly to them. It was absolutely remarkable. These women just had such poise and courage to get up and do this. The cult really made this tough on these women, and every one of them was just courageous as hell. And the highlight of every single part of this entire trip, to be honest, was they were arguing to try to get Danny to only get 15 years. The reason that there was so much confusion about this is he's not being sentenced on today's law. They're sentencing him, and I didn't realize any of this because none of this was really talked about. They're sentencing him on a 2003 law. They had to actually get out law books from 2003 to see what the sentencing rules were in 2003, because apparently they've changed. And in 2003, that would have automatically, they would have automatically had an opportunity to run those, to not run them consecutively. They could have run them concurrently in 2003. The law has since changed. It's an adaptation of Megan's Law. And it's called a one-strike adaptation. And what that basically means is this: they can send you to prison for life on one strike. If that one strike happens to be, an essay, that's one of them. In fact, so there was a lot of courtroom kind of going back and forth legalese stuff. And they made an argument, they got up and made their argument for why they thought he should only get 15 years. The best part of the day is the woman got up and was talking about Danny. It was one of his attorneys. And she said, this day is about Danny Masterson, right? Like, this is who this is about. And a woman sitting in front of me, looking absolutely lovely in a pink pantsuit, who used to be on television, made this kind of like harumph sound. Like, she was absolutely livid at the concept that this was about him. She was sitting with Jane Does on both sides of her, and she just went like a harumph noise, and it was priceless, because the attorney turned and looked right at her and kind of acknowledged that, obviously, I'm not taking anything away from what happened to the Jane Does, and it was really a moment. It was. But when they took a 15-minute recess because they needed to work over some scheduling stuff, and they let everybody walk outside, providing you had your ticket, you could come back in. And we stayed inside. We saw no reason to go out. And Aaron popped his head out, and he's like, "I need you to come out in the hall. Just come out here real quick." And when I went out there, all of the Jane Does were out there with him, and apparently they have watched a lot of the stuff that Aaron and I did together, and it was awesome, because the Jane Does were familiar with who I was. It was an honor to beat hell. It really was. I got a huge hug from the three of them there. It was amazing. It really was. This was a very, very This was a really heavy day. I mean, honestly, I was Alan Ballantyne. It was killing him. I mean, it really was. That testimony was. It would, if it didn't put a lump in your throat and tears in your eyes, I don't think you're human. Because it was horrific. And I'm not going to talk about any of it because I think that I don't know. I would feel really weird talking about anything that they said. I don't think it's my place, and I don't think I could do it any justice at all. But it was horrific, and what he did to steal life from these people and from their families and put them through, I mean, not just a hell, but this was engineered, this hell. You know, there was a group of people that did everything within their power to systematically destroy these people's lives, to keep them from doing what they did today. And they didn't take any crap. They in spite of everything that they threw at these ladies, they walked in there with heads high, and you know what? They got to say what needed to be said. And I think that for all of them, it was cathartic to see the looks on their faces when it was over. I mean, all of them were trembling, you know, to get up and have to do that statement, knowing that a good chunk of the audience is not in your corner. And it's funny because we've talked a lot when I'm on with Aaron. There's been a lot of speculation. People like to put in they'll buy a super chat or whatever, and they'll say, "I wonder if his family ever watches Aaron." Thank you, Reese. I appreciate you. But they'll ask if we think there's any chance. Big bus. If there's any chance that anybody in his family or anything is watching what Aaron's doing, what Aaron's doing, and when we're on, and there was a moment in the courtroom because we sat one row behind Danny's family as well, and there was a moment where they looked over to the section we were sitting in, and they were kind of staring at me and Alan, and the brother kind of made a gesture to his mother and said something, and she looked over confused, and then you could see the light bulb go on, and it was a very weird moment because they absolutely they have seen me on that channel. It was rather obvious, and it was a strange day too because I'm this YouTube stuff. I'm new at this, you know what I mean, and it's an odd thing. Like I walked in and more people knew who we were obviously than we knew. We didn't know any of them, but because of what we've done on Aaron's channel, there's just so many people that ran up and said, "Hey, I know who you are. I saw you on Aaron's channel," and there were a lot of SPTV people in there. I think that there's relief that's palpable. You know, I think for a lot of people this was just it was frightening. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that great design. Thank you. I think for a lot of people, this was really there was a lot of pressure in this, especially for the legal teams because you don't know, and the arguments that they make, a lot of it is legalese. From a human being standpoint, every person in that room is thinking 15 years. When they broke that down, the attorney, Danny's attorney, got up and said, that doesn't mean he gets out in 15 years. It means that he would be eligible for parole in 85% of that, which works out to be about 12 and a half years. He said, and at that point, he can get dumped. He could get dumped again. He may die in prison. He's just eligible at that point, and he would be 62. And everyone, I think, in the courtroom was kind of holding their breath, for the argument made. And the judge was having none of it. The judge came out, and the first thing she said was, the reason we are here today is not because you're a victim and not because these women were talking about you or trying to get money out of you or had a beef with Scientology or any of that. She said, we're here because of what you did. And the fact is that thank you so much. I appreciate that, Jess. But she said, the Jane Does contacted people the second this happened. They instantly went and reported this. One of the Jane Does had reported it to the police. But it was such a solid, there was so much solid evidence to put him away that the judge was not hearing a word of his crap and basically just said, this is what you did. And then she said, although I could, to sentence you to concurrent sentences, or I could have back then, she said, I never would have, because this is something that deserves consecutive sentences. You destroyed these people, and we're not having it any other way. So Danny Masterson, by the way, he came in he was actually dressed in street clothes, which I have never once seen at a sentencing for an inmate. So I don't know whether that's California, protocol or what, but He was wearing prison shoes that looked like he purchased. They weren't the ones that they issue, but no shoelaces, Velcroed, white shoes. Looked like they were about a size or two too big. He had a huge gap. The first thing I noticed between his foot and the back of the shoe. Other than that, he had on a what looked like a very casual suit, almost something that you've seen him in there before. No tie. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Treasure. Thank you. And then while he was sitting in there, there were several times during the procedure where he made faces that you could almost, they're just snarky, not rolling eyes, but like he knew what he could get away with without, but I mean, you know, a Jane Doe would say something or say a year and he'd do one of these, you know, where there would just be a look on his face like he was taking exception to the things that the Jane Does were saying about him. But it was, what a really incredible, just that the entire procedure, watching this go down. I don't remember anything that I've done, certainly having anything to do with a court that was more intense than this. I've been in courtrooms many times, as I said earlier, only a couple of times when I've been on this side. But when he came in, I think he had probably come to the conclusion he was doing 30 years. He came in and sat down and had his legs straight out. He was sort of like in almost a reclining position, like he was trying to come across as comfortable as possible. Well, you know what? It's been an honor to be here, Kirsten. Thank you. I appreciate the super chat, but it has been an honor to be here representing all you guys for real. It's been an absolute. Thank you, my friends. Appreciate you.
Hey, so you on live right
We're live right now. It's all right. What'd you think?
Cool?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
you were in there as well.
Yeah,
that was heavy, wasn't it?
I couldn't believe he. Well, it's not that I couldn't. I was shocked when he got the consecutive, but it's like he deserved it. He did what he did, man, and unbelievable. You know,
the girls were so tough.
They were powerful.
I'm telling
you,
they
were powerful. And when his attorney came on, she couldn't deny it, and so she just asked for 15 concurrent. Yeah. But when the DA spoke and the judge spoke, it made total sense.
Yeah, Mueller was incredible.
Sense. Yeah.
When they let Mueller make a comment, he said, no, that's not justice.
Yeah.
He said, that's not even close. Yeah. He said nothing shy of 30
years. And I was
years.
thinking the same thing because she came on, he lived a good life, blah blah blah. But I'm thinking, wait a minute.
That entire time,
the person that came on, she's still devastated.
Yeah.
Devastated. She can't even take a shower. You know, I feel so bad for those.
Yeah.
And like I said, I love that show, but he got what he deserved.
No, he got exactly
so,
what he
deserved. And you know what? And you know what got me to is they brought up the Church of Scientology so much, which is great.
Yep.
It was all over the place, and the church couldn't do anything about it.
No, not a thing.
You know?
Thank you.
Right, I'm Larry.
Thank you, Pink. Larry, appreciate it. It was a pleasure to meet you, man. It really was. Thank you so much, Pink. I really appreciate it. Oh, Pink Bubblegum. Hey, how are you? Long time no see. Good to see you. That was that gentleman right there was actually the first person. We got here at like 6 o'clock this morning. As we were walking in, he walked up. He goes, "You're Captain Tommy." It was celebrity. It was odd. The number of people that recognized us, recognized me from being on Aaron's channel. But it was awesome meeting Aaron too. We're going to be getting together a little later. I'm hoping that we're probably going to film something. Sorry, that's just damn impressive. That's another thing that we've been seeing constantly in LA is guys riding dirt bike, guys riding wheelies all over the place. So, but we wanted to pop on before we go and meet up with people and just get the message out to everybody as fast as possible. I'm sure that Yahoo's already got it up. I know a lot of the news sources are already going live with this stuff, but we wanted to bring you an idea of what it was like inside. It was hands down the smallest courtroom I've ever been in my life. I mean, it was teeny. So we got there this morning, and we were in the first 10 people inside the door, and they gave you everybody a little number, and you had to sign in, you know, with your ticket, and you signed in, and they came down and they grabbed people 12 at a time. So they brought in the first 12. they didn't even get a second 12 in there. So I would say in total, what do you figure? 17 people maybe?
Yeah.
There were about 17 people that were in the gallery who were not, that didn't have a press pass or were not family. So there were very, very few people that were just allowed in the gallery. We got really, really lucky. And we also got lucky in where they put us. We were in our proximity to not only Danny. Danny was, I mean, we were as close to Danny as you could be in terms of having an open shot at him. And he winked about 4 or 5 times. He would look over at Bijou or over at his brother and his mom, and he'd throw him a wink. He never showed any emotion of any kind. He did, however, look pasty as hell. I mean, there's no other way to say it. The guy is, it's very noticeable how little color he has. It's real obvious the guy has not seen the sun in a very long time. He also looks considerably smaller than I thought he was. I'd never seen the guy in public, but looking, he sat and crossed his legs for the majority of the deal. When he first got in, he was laid back like he was laying down. Then he took his right leg and threw it over his left one and sat like that for pretty much the duration. And we didn't hear a word out of him until the very end of the trial when the prosecutor addressed him directly. He had already been sentenced. And he said, Danny Masterson. And Danny was just over there at the table. And he sort of called him again, like, hey, Danny Masterson. And Danny looked over at him and he said, now that you have been convicted of this, I just want you to know that I think they called it a 208 or a 308. There's some law. He said, but this means that you will now have to register as a sex offender for the rest of your life. You understand what I'm telling you? You understand that you have to do this? And called him out looking for a response. And he responded, yes, sir. He was polite. He said, yes, sir, I understand. I don't think, people, that he's ever going to have to register as a sex offender. I would say that there is a really good chance that what will not happen is Danny ever registering. I don't see him ever stepping foot outside the prison. At his first chance comes up at 73. He is a double SA convicted felon. That's not going to get the first round. Nobody's going to get the first round on that. So 73 years old, let's say they give him a 3-year dump for the first one. He's looking at 76 before he even gets another shot at it. And again, who knows? But he has been brutal in terms of not wanting to participate in this. Everybody there was talking about that. That was one of the other undertones, was just how much this cat has shown zero remorse in any way. He has, there's nothing that he did in there or prior. Oh, thank you so much, Phil. I really appreciate that. God bless you. People, I can't tell you what an amazing deal this was. I mean, just what an opportunity to come out. Oh, Leah Remini was there, as I said, and I think she probably had the highlight of the day. If you could have heard the noise, I mean, it was nothing but contempt when the defense attorney, she was a lady, a black woman, I would say probably mid-50s, and she got up and made a very impassioned plea for the fact that Danny had been a phenomenal citizen. There were 50 letters, according to her. Michelle, she says, thank you for everything you do. The captain of the lifeboat. Local news hasn't reported it yet in LA, which is weird. How did Danny's mom and Bijou react when they first saw him coming into court and then when the verdict was read? I'm glad that you brought that up because I probably would have forgot it. And it's kind of important because when we first got in there and everybody first sat down, both Bijou and his mom lost it. And it was an odd sound because when you first heard it, it almost sounded like somebody laughing, and I think everybody in the court was a little bit freaked out, and you came to realize that it was a muffled sob that was coming out of, and I couldn't tell because of how they were sort of leaning on one another, whether that was Bijou or her mom that was, or his mom that was doing it, but they were all sitting close to one another, and it was a really surreal thing, and I'll tell you, they also, prior to anything happening with the sentencing, they addressed, Beachcomber says, 1.2 in the chat, Tommy. Great job you're doing today. Thank you. Yeah, a little bit bigger than our normal live feed. We'll take it. I will take it. I absolutely love it. For real. Thank you all. But what do we got here? April. April in Amsterdam. Did Danny speak at all? The only time Danny spoke at all in this entire thing was when he agreed that he realized he had to register as a sex offender. I was a little surprised that they didn't tell him he couldn't own a gun, that there's a bunch of other things as a felon that you cannot do, and none of that was mentioned. Carousel Delirium, good to see you. Long time no talk. Get on vacation, you forget everybody. The big prayers for Heather Joy. Heather is obviously was considerably worse off than she thought when from that accident she had with the dog. So if we can keep Heather in our prayers. Heather's going to be out of commission. She would love to go live today. She really would. And she sends, yesterday I got a thing that said, this is everything that's wrong, and it was broken sinuses, this whole list. And she's like, I'll try to go live tomorrow. I'm like, no, you won't. I'll do some stuff during the vacation. I was talking to my esteemed partner about this, and it was actually his idea. He said to me, if she's down, man, why don't you just, we got to put up at least one show a day. We're going to continue to film the way we've been doing, but I'm going to start doing the 5 PMs for the rest of the vacation. It's not a big deal. I'll just pop in and do just the lives because, just the 5s. It would be a very good thing to make sure we're going live at least once a day. We got a big crew of people on the lifeboat who use this as a way to focus on sobriety for an hour a day. So we'll be there tonight. So before we end this up and take off, I want to thank everybody again and just tell you that I'm sure we're going to be doing plenty of stuff later, and we're going to do a bunch of Q&A. When we get set up, I'll have a proper studio kind of a thing where I've got a laptop and I can actually really get into it and do some question and answer stuff, because it was, I would imagine you guys have a ton of questions, because it really was one of those things that, we're so blessed with it was funny too, because if you had a purple press pass, you were automatically let in, right? No harm, no foul. But you're in the very last row. That was all reserved for press. So Aaron got there. We were there an hour and a half before Aaron because we had to try to get in. He came rolling in like the superstar that he is, because the man is a superstar. But he came rolling in at about 8:15, so about 45 minutes before it was time to go live. And he went and sat in the back row. And I said to Alan, I go, good Lord, dude, did we get seats? When they pulled us in, we were in the second row. There's only 4 rows in the entire court. Literally the smallest gallery I've ever seen. Really, really small. And there were more lawyers in there. Danny's legal team, he had his normal defense team that you guys have seen through the 2 trials. So it was the woman I spoke about earlier, and his normal attorney, who was dressed in the worst 3-piece suit I've ever seen in my life. I didn't even know guys still wore 3-piece suits, but this was like circa 1978. Yeah. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, but he definitely bought it off the rack. He figured with what he's charging that cat, he could get a tailored suit, but really kind of shabby looking. Cohen looked terrible. Whereas the prosecuting team looked fantastic. Mueller's a stud. And just for the record, because it's who I am, he was wearing a Series 1 Rolex GMT Master with, instead of having the lume, it had the little brass studs for the numbers. Very, very rare watch. And he had a beautiful example of it on his wrist. And he was just great. He was such an advocate for these women. He said, I have been working just SA cases for the last 20 years. He said, and if I've learned anything, it's that the people who are victims of these people, they don't get 15 years and then it's over, or they don't get 30 years and then it's over. They have to live with this for the rest of their life. And we heard what that looks like. The Jane Does got up there and talked about what that translates to, and how it messes with intimacy and how it messes with their relationships. And for a lot of these people, because they were so wrapped up in the cult, half their family bailed on them because of what happened with Danny. Literally had family members walk away because this was going to hurt the church. It is, you talk about a sick group of individuals. That air quotes church is about as messed up. You could look around the courts as they were reading out this stuff and just see the disgust on the look of all of the people in there. The things that they did to fair game these girls. If you hear nothing else that I say today, those women are freaking heroes. if I had a hat on, I would take it off. Jane Doe 1 in particular, just absolutely, I mean, she hit it out of the park. She did such a beautiful job of conveying. And then there was a letter she was going to read. Like I said, I'm not going to get into details because it's not my place, but there was a letter she was going to read that was from her mom. And right to the end, she said, I'm not reading that letter because I feel like he's already ripped. Sorry. Tuner car. She said he's already ripped enough of my heart out. She said I'm not going to do any of that more today. I think this is enough. And I think everybody in the room thought, oh God, it's enough. She was the last of the Jane Does to speak, and there were other Jane Does there today that were not part of the case, but were there for support as well. And I couldn't be more impressed with a group of people, just how they were there for one another and supporting one another. It was absolutely beautiful. This has been amazing. It really has. He says maybe take a ride by the Scientology building. There is no chance in hell that we are not taking a ride by the Scientology building. I promise you, the Celebrity Center, all of it. We're gonna go up to Hollywood and raise a little hell. I want to go knock on the door and ask them if David Miscavige is around.
Good Lord.
Yeah, we want to do a live with the midget. Is he around? I'm sorry. The height thing is bad. I didn't mean that. It's not politically correct at all, and I apologize. Garden gnome, I think is what it is. All right, people, for real. We're gonna get rolling, and so we are signing off from 30 to life, the Danny Masterson sentencing. Justice was served, I think, people. Everybody involved is pretty pleased. It could not have been any longer than 30, by the way. All of those enhancements, because it was in the 2003 law. I'm not taking that. Because it was in the 2003 law, those enhancements meant nothing. This was the confusion. Like when I said 40, she came on and they were arguing about the gun and the gun enhancement. She said, under 2003 law, the enhancement doesn't matter. There is no enhancement for this. No matter how many things he did, there was no way to enhance this any further. So, but what it did was it absolutely solidified the fact that there was no chance he was getting 15 on that. And I'll tell you what really chapped me, and I'll finish with this, was when they said, you're going to be looking at just under 13 years. People, that's what I did. And when they started talking about what he did was worth 15 years, no. What he did was deserves life, but 30 in this case is probably going to be life for him. So, all right, everyone, we will see you live later today. Thank you to the 1,420 people who are live with me. I love you all. We'll see you guys all on the boat. I'm Captain Tommy Scalwell. That
Alan Valentine.
is Alan Valentine, 13,000 miles from home. All right, everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.